Good freaking morning to you. Good morning to you all. Welcome back. We are gathered here today to talk about Tao Te Ching this morning. I've got passage number 2 coming your way. Dude, you ever just we don't have the sequence of words and mouth noises to even articulate what in the world is happening. All I can do is look at you wide-eyed, and you'll be like, "Are you okay?" And I'll be like, "Sure." Short answer? Sure, yeah. Long answer? I don't know. God damn, son. What the hell happened to you? Again with the sort of answers. Okay, I have a particular habit. My particular habit is picking up these shiny freaking like metaphysical objects. Like, oh yeah, dude, this one's totally gonna help me out in the future when I'm feeling bad. This one's gonna help me out. I'm gonna remember this. Yeah. And I'll hold on to that thing. I'll put it in my pocket or something like that. And, I'm walking around with the thing in my pocket. Oh, yeah, this is good. I can't wait to use this one like a goddamn sensu bean from Dragon Ball Z. Yeah, I'm gonna use this sensu bean to bring myself back to health whenever I need to. Anytime. And it's just like a life vest some deep sea diver would wear. All you gotta do is pull this thing and it's gonna inflate and you're gonna get sucked back up to the surface. You'll be good. You're straight. And just knowing that I have that little sensu bean, knowing that I got that little lever to pull, I'm just wanting to pull it. I'm like, dude, I want to know what happens. I want to know. And so that little shiny freaking pebble that I hold on to, put it in my pocket, has some kind of rough edge on it. And it ends up rubbing against me. Rubbing on that. Friction, heat, abrasiveness. And this freaking shiny pebble that I cherished and adored so much, it scratches like a hole in my pocket. Now my pants are effectively kaputsko. Triple kachingo. Dunzo. Kapowza. And now I'm left with a problem that I didn't have in the beginning. That's because I was reaching, I was grabbing for something that I thought was cool, and it ended up, maybe I wouldn't have had the problem if I didn't want that thing. Or maybe if I wanted it and I just didn't do anything about it. Don't know. I don't know. Anyways, before I get into Tao Te Ching, passage number 2, language and contrasts, I think I'm going to dip into some direct experience that I had. The nature of change and the nature of static state. You know, what is it to achieve some kind of timelessness? You know, if time were the kind of space that we inhabit where things animate themselves, where still images show movement, the static state would be like our Lord and Savior from Modern Warfare 2 in the map Favela. Just chilling up there on the mountain, just always, just statue. Steady state. No fluctuation. Just same form. Morning, noon, night. Yeah, so this beautiful shiny pebble is for another time. Right now, it's about passage number 2. Language and contrasts. When all the social world regards beauty as beauty, here already is ugly. If all treat mastery as being good at things, here already is not being good at things. Thus, presence and absence mutually spout. Hard and easy mutually inform. Long and short are mutually gauged. High and low mutually incline. Sound and tone mutually blend. Before and after mutually follow on. Using this, sages don't act on constructs in addressing affairs. They practice a don't use language teaching. 10,000 natural kinds are made by it. Yet, don't express anything. Sprouting, you don't treat them as existing. Acting on constructs, you don't rely on anything. Success taking form, you don't dwell on it. In general, they simply don't dwell on it. And in that, they don't lose it. Yeah. I found it freaking amazing, dude. I opened up some kind of portal into an ethereal realm where suffering just didn't exist. And it didn't exist because I didn't want anything. Which means that whatever I got, it didn't matter. It didn't matter what I got. You know, I was like, okay. I'll be receptive to it. I'll take it in. Yeah. There's no pain if I don't have any sort of association with what it is that I'm handling. You know, you'll go through a whole onslaught of things that you want. And there's things that you want that you they can be very superficial at times. They can be materialistic or just some kind of fleeting thing. And then there comes a moment in time where you see through that and you're like, yeah, this isn't it. This for sure isn't it. And you give yourself a moment to ponder. You're like, well, what do I want then? What is it that I do want? You know, if I can, I find myself in this kind of floating. I can choose it. You find yourself in this space. To choose what direction to go in. And you've got an infinite point system of ways to go about this freaking thing. And you know, oftentimes you'll fail to realize that the car is only going to move from where the rubber meets the road. You know, you're only ever going to be from within what you are currently. And so you don't change that. You know, with your mind. Necessarily. You don't just get something because you want it. It's not as straightforward as that. You know, you start thinking, yeah, I want to not suffer. You say, I want to be happy. You know, and then you're happy for a moment. And what you see inside of that is that you're completely isolated in that happiness. That you're all alone in that happiness. And immediately after that sort of happiness feeling that you'll have is this itching. You're like, dude, I want to bring everyone along for this happiness. I just want us to be a happy group. Let's be a happy squad together. So when I smile and laugh, you smile and laugh. We can all be happy. Come on. Come be with your soul. Be happy. And you notice the yin and yang, right? You notice the little darkness that is in that light. That even though you're happy, you're not completely happy. You still want something. There's still something that's there. A little piece of dirt. A little thing to be changed. It's just not perfect. It is the 0.1% of the germ that survived your Germex attack. Your Germex genocide. And so from your desire of wanting to be happy, it quickly shifts over to something else. You're like, fuck happiness, bro. I want to connect. I don't care about happiness if I'm alone and happy. I'd rather be sad and just be with you. That's a different kind of happiness. The happiness love of connection that, dude, it doesn't matter. I don't care about being happy, dude. You know, I think I'm happier if we could just be together. You know? And I start to wonder, you know, because all things do change, you know. The moment, you know, one moment you want to connect, the next moment, you know, you want to do other things. You want to do other things in the next moment. You feel a pull away. You feel a repulsion coming on. And next on the list is the pain that comes from clinging, right? Because what has happened here is you've taken one desire that you've had, you've seen through that. You said, oh, don't want that. I saw why I didn't want to be happy, and then I found the answer in connection. Yes. And so now you've taken all the eggs you had in basket one, which was happiness. You take all of those out, and you're like, forget about it. Taking it, I'm putting it in connection. Connection, that's my source now. That's my new source. It's not like the other one. It's not like the other one. It's not like the other one. I have yet to see how this one is fallible. You know, I have yet to see where the chinks in connection are. Well, the chinks in connection come from, you know, how much you invested in it. You know, because the guiding principle behind this whole thing is you don't want life to hurt. You don't want life to hurt. You know, that's great. That's great if we can be together. But if it starts hurting, what the are we doing? What are we doing besides contributing and perpetuating this pain? You know, this is what they talk about Eve in the Bible, her first sin. You know, it's the sin of compassion. You know, we say, yes, it is a good thing to be compassionate. It's a beautiful thing to be loving. And then we take that and we go way past it. You know, we say, dude, I'm so loving, I'm so compassionate that I could do it when it hurts. And it becomes this, you know, it becomes a battle against ourselves again. Once more, you know, we're so gung-ho about where we have invested our morally correct points in. We're like, you know, that when it begins rearing evidence that perhaps, oops, we were wrong, there can very well be an aspect that's like, but stay tuned, just stay tuned, come on. Stay tuned! Please! And I'll tell you, this is... perhaps, the puzzle they mention in passage 1. The door to a cluster of puzzles. Because now what? Well, the whole point of it is about liberation. It's about freeing up the systems. It's about not having a tried and true, backed forever methodology to get yourself into heaven, to find nirvana, to be there forever. And the defining quality of the phenomena occurring in that moment would be that we have incorrectly defined where it is the source of liberation is. You know, we'll attach ourselves to the concept and idea of connecting at all cost, to the point where we force it. And forcing is not good for a whole bunch of systems. I mean, you wanna take a lighter approach to things. Sometimes it can help to take a lighter approach to things sometimes. You know, because liberation, freedom of suffering, that you should be able to at a certain point recognize your own sort of limitations and restrictions that you put upon yourself. And that you'll recognize your participation, the cards that you play in investing in your own sense of suffering. The inner dependence between all things. You know that saying about the abyss? You know, you stare into the abyss long enough, eventually your eyes adjust and you see the abyss was staring back at you. There comes a point in time where the concept of connection being the source of all life becomes the source of death. The next step would be stepping through. At first you see the gateway. The next step is to walk through the revolving door. And not just continuously circle in it. The next step in liberation is liberating yourself from the point you thought it was. It's liberating yourself from yourself, Zuko. Dude, there's a freaking quote that I love from Zuko. In Last Avatar, Last Airbender, Avatar Last Airbender, he says something like, it zooms in on Zuko, and Uncle Iroh, wise, jacked muscle, old freaking White Lotus man, before White Lotus was tainted. Zuko was alone, and Zuko, what he's manifesting in his life is he's trying to manifest the wisdom from Uncle Iroh, and so he does his best impression of him. He imagines him into his life, and he says, Zuko, I'm gonna butcher it. Fuck it. Whatever. He's like, ask yourself, God damn. Dude, I wish I could remember this shit. He says something like, yeah. Inquire yourself about your other self, and then only then will your true self reveal itself. The last step before ethereal freedom is you. That it ends up being a you versus you battle all the way through. That you're fighting constructs that you have built, structures, infrastructures, whole entire conglomerates and systems that exist within you, that have their own economy, their own social order, a whole bunch of no-go zones, just various shock collar invisible fields that if you walk into, you're gonna, what the? Incur soul-puncturing damage. And what happens at this point, this is where things get really interesting. Because the whole gestalt of the world changes entirely. Now, you don't have these kind of vague restrictions on what you do, what you won't do, what you'll look at and what you won't look at, just based off of what your mind is telling you how to operate. Okay, you've got a little plankton in your head who's going and controlling your SpongeBob, man. He's waiting till I shift into maximum overdrive. But what I found, these moments for me are very much like just eating the star in Super Mario, You are invincible, but only for like a limited amount of time until you fuck it up yourself, until you try and like phone the outside world about it, until you because what happens is you take your current moment, you take your current self, and then you say, dude, I gotta ration this. I gotta save this. I gotta somehow package this for the future when I run out of the current moment. Dude, because when I'm out of the present moment, I have to have whatever this is. That's kind of where it all falls apart. But it's nice. It's really nice. I mean, you let your eyes look at what your eyes will look at, and then you sort of recognize what the hell that is even made of and why. And fundamentally, suffering comes from the sense of being stuck to whatever it is that you are, or are experiencing, or what you're trying to avoid. And even to what you're trying to become. Because it's tricky. I mean, you're constantly becoming. You're constantly becoming anew. Taking in new information. Discharging information. And I will tell you, dude, it is difficult. It is difficult, dude. I mean, man. My grandma called me yesterday, dude. And it was so bad. It was so bad. She asked me, "Hey, how are you?" I was cooking. I picked up the phone from the Apple Watch, so I had to hold it up to my freaking ear. Muscles. I gotta use my muscles. I was feeling like a goddamn slug. Like a slug. And yet, dude, I mean, I had to be Grandma's little boy in that moment. Or at least, I felt like I had to. I couldn't come out like a degenerate. And that's a me problem. That's because, for whatever reason, I don't just want to be another person with my grandma. I want to be my grandma's little boy with my grandma, But it hurt. It hurt a lot. And you know what? I'm not even going to blame myself. I'm not going to bash myself about this. I don't know what the freaking strategy would be, can be, is, any of that. I mean, I really wanted these Tao Te Ching passage stories to be concise, like 20 words or less. That's it. But, I mean, and so I'm gonna do it again. We'll do it again. We'll do it again. But this sit somewhere as something to go back on. And so since I have freed myself finally from the constraints of letting this only be about the second passage of the Tao, I wanted to get messy about life, spirituality, soul boom. Like, what is selflessness? What is selfishness? What is the end of suffering? I mean, you look out into the world, and all of a sudden, you are hit in the face with a brick that there is no such thing as a wrong perspective. You know, you're just coming across people who are feeling this massive wave in different ways. And they're not going about things wrong. What are they perceiving wrong? Or were you looking for them? Or were you looking to them for something that they couldn't give you? But it's all good. Don't worry. Don't you worry. You see, the coolest thing about this recognition is that life is constantly being broken down and just beaten into a bloody pulp. But all the while, you know, that's happening. There is an opportunity to build against that, in opposition of that. And that's what the present moment is for. The present moment isn't, you know, your suffering, your particular suffering. The reason why you suffer is because you choose to stay in it, to think about it, to analyze it, to process it, to really feel it. And what you become cognizant of is you know, you're like, oh dude, it smells bad. And then, you know, what you'll do is you'll just stay in the vicinity and you'll ruminate on that, you know. That'll become your fixation. You're like, oh dude, it smells bad here. I hate it. It smells so fucking bad. What the fuck is this? and you become a kind of King Joffrey from Game of Thrones, or like that little prince game. Make the little man fly, mommy. Like, you want to rule the world with telepathy. You just want to look at things and just like move the world with your mind. But alas, it is your mind that moves through the world. And it's funny because oh dude, it is a fucking clusterfuck. Because it's in this moment you recognize that that suffering is a choice. That there is such a path where you don't suffer at all. You are, but that's like you just turn into air at that point. You as you know yourself no longer exists. You turn into a gray blob, just an anime character, just one of those background characters or whatever, in your own life, seemingly. And this whole thing that you were trying to get away from, suffering, you start wondering. You're like, dude, I should probably get back there, right? I should probably get my head back in the game, right? This doesn't seem right. They always told me that I had to hurt, that there was no gain without pain. So I have to hurt, right? It just goes against everything that you knew. And so, yeah, I'm probably gonna redo them. That second passage, perhaps. Anyways, I'm skedaddling.